Hey everyone, welcome to the Jack of All Trades podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Musso, and this is my second ever episode. So if you missed the first episode, I would highly recommend pausing this one and going back and listening to the first episode, because that's the one where I really talk a lot about kind of just who I am, where I'm coming from, like just get to know me a little bit, because that will definitely help you understand a lot of the things that I'll be talking about in these upcoming episodes. So go do that if you haven't, and then come back and join me again. If you already did listen to that first one, thank you so much, and thank you for joining me again. Today I thought that I would talk a little bit about one of my hobbies that I had mentioned in the last episode, and that is horseback riding. But more specifically, I want to talk about how horses were kind of like my first love, but also my first panic attack. So we'll get into that. We definitely can dive in. There's a lot to talk about. So get comfortable, or get ready to be productive and do some laundry or drive to work, or whatever it is you want to do while you're listening. And let's get started. I started riding horses. You know what? Actually, I don't even know what year it was. I don't even know. I started watching this TV show called Heartland. Some of you may have seen it, heard of it. It's a Canadian like family TV show. It's centered around horses and like this family ranch. And there's this girl, the main character. She works with like troubled horses, and they call her the miracle girl. And she eventually builds that into a business where she takes clients. And I was very inspired by that. And so long before I even ever had ridden a horse, I was like pretending, like as a kid, I remember I would take like one of the stools from our kitchen, and then I would put like a quilt over it and like a seat cushion. And then we had this exercise band with handles I would put over it to be like the stirrups. So basically I made this whole like saddle blanket, stirrups. I would take another rope or like exercise bands, and I would kind of wrap it around like a chair in front of me and use that as the reins. And I would have like another little stool as a mounting block. Like I would do that. My cousins and I have a set of twin girl cousins, and they're just about a year younger than me, and they also got into that same TV show, and they also really got into horses. And so I remember in the backyard, we would set up like 3 different like bins or something, and I had like a horse head on a stick, and we would basically do barrel racing in the backyard, and we would time it. And we'd be in the car, we would wrap our sweatshirt around the seat in front of us and hold on to the sleeves like it was reins every time, and we'd pull up to a stop sign and we'd be like pulling back on the reins to stop the horse. And like we were obsessed, and like all we could ever think about and talk about was horses and this show Heartland, and we wanted to go visit the set so bad. And we actually all made a pact at one point that like we were all going to work with horses when we grew up. Unfortunately, I will be breaking that promise. But the things you make when you're little, it is what it is. But yeah, we all were like, oh, we have to ride horses someday. Like we were obsessed. And eventually I think my cousins started lessons somewhere soon before I did. And then I remember we all got to go on a trail ride and do some riding at a family friend's farm in a different state, and it was like the coolest thing ever. We were so excited, and I finally got to start lessons too. I might have been in middle school. I probably was in middle school, and at that time still I did want to work with horses as my career. And so I went to this small farm not too far from my house, and the horse that I learned to ride on was a Morgan horse. Her name was Pebbles, and she was just the best. I absolutely love her. We formed a really good bond. And, for those of you that don't know much of anything about horses, it definitely does make a difference if you are connected with a horse and if you bond with them. I still to this day, and this maybe stems from the panic attack that I had, because of a certain situation with a horse, and we'll get into it, but that's maybe why now I'm like a lot more apprehensive than I used to be about getting on a horse that I don't know. It definitely makes a difference if you know the horse and you trust the horse and the horse trusts you. And with Pebbles, we definitely established that trust. And a lot of that came from, I would also do I would groom her and do her hooves, and, all of that. So mucking out stalls. I was like working at the farm so that I could earn more lessons. So for a while I was doing that. I was mucking out stalls. I was cleaning feed buckets, cleaning saddles, kind of whatever needed to be done. At the time there were just 4 horses at that farm. And since then, they've expanded a lot. It's been years. So, it's a whole business now, but it was really great because it was a very small, friendly environment, because the horse world can be very intimidating and very, exclusive and very prestigious depending on where you go. There's like the rich horse owners that, that part can be not very enjoyable if you just love horses and want to ride and don't want all of that drama with it. So that's why I'm very grateful that I started riding where I did. And for anyone that's curious, I did ride both English and Western. For anyone that doesn't know what the difference is, for Western, think like a rodeo. Think saddle horn, like that thing in the front of the saddle that sticks up that you can hold on to. Think barrel racing, pole bending, anything like that, usually in a Western saddle. And then English does not have the saddle horn. It's, a very different style of riding. Think like show jumping, dressage, I guess, things like that would be considered English. And there's a different way of holding the reins. There's different parts of the saddle, and they're called different things. And there's different ways that you sit and move your body when your horse is going at different paces. So I did some of both, but what I kind of focused on to start with was learning how to post when I was trotting, which is like an English thing. And how I learned to hold the reins was also like direct rein English, and that's what I did the most. But I never got really beyond like a trot, because I was working on posting at a trot, and I still remember the first time I got thrown off a horse. Actually, the only time, knock on wood. I just knocked on some wood, because not that I'm superstitious, but you can never be too careful, I guess. When I got thrown off of the horse, I was riding Pebbles, and we were trotting around the arena, and I don't know if something maybe spooked her in like the tall grass just outside of the arena, and then also like my heel might have come up and tapped her at the same time. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but she spooked and she kind of broke into a canter, which is faster than a trot. But the way she did it in such a way that it like threw me off of her. Luckily I was wearing a helmet, but it threw me off of her, and I landed really hard on the ground, and she almost stepped on me, but she didn't. She was very careful to avoid me, and then she went straight to her owner, who was standing in the middle, and she was like the sweetest. The way she was acting was like, I promise I didn't do it on purpose. Like, you can just tell, like, if you know how to read horses, you can kind of just tell sometimes. And she had no malicious intent. Like, she trusted me, I trusted her. It was just an accident. But what I did was the right thing. I got right back up on the horse and rode again, because the longer you take to get back on after something like that happens, the more you're going to build it up in your mind, and it's going to be scary. And that's what happens to people sometimes, and then they never ride again, or it takes them a long time. So I got right back on. However, my neck was like, that is the most neck pain I feel like I have ever experienced in my life. Like, I could not turn my neck, like the next day, the next couple days, and like it was the muscle. I mean, maybe I should have gotten checked out. I never did get checked out. I think it was just like neck soreness from the way I hit the ground, but it was kind of awful. But anyways, that was the first time I got thrown off a horse. But yeah, I did a lot of work with the horses, like with some groundwork as well. I just had so much fun riding at this place. But then eventually there was a period of time where I don't remember exactly what happened. For some reason, I ended up having to go somewhere else to ride. Um, I think it was because maybe the horse that I usually rode got like sick for a little bit, but then also something with the arena or the scheduling. The owner, she had to like take a break from doing lessons or something. I don't remember exactly, but I had to take a break from there. But my mom found another stable that I could ride at that was also nearby, but this one was definitely a bigger stable. And I'm kind of cautious about putting like names in here, but if I did tell you the name, you would definitely hear that it sounds a lot more prestigious, even just from the name. And there was this really big indoor arena. There was like a lot more employees and instructors, and it was just a bigger operation, and started to get into the area of like just less personal, I guess. One thing I liked about riding at the first place that I rode was it was very personal, and you could really connect with the horse you were going to ride and with the owner. But at this new place, it wasn't very personal. The owner, she was like, this older horse lady, like she was a tough cookie. You could tell that she had some years in her with horses, but she was a little bit intimidating, to be honest. But my riding instructor that I got assigned to was this really nice old lady. I did like her. I liked my instructor. And the horse that I got paired with was also a Morgan horse, actually. I forget her name. I think it was like, maybe it was like Sutton or something. But she was a Morgan horse. But the difference here was that I didn't really get to like bond with the horse other than when I was riding her. Like I wasn't like tacking her up. I wasn't grooming her. I wasn't doing groundwork with her. I would just show up for my lesson and then ride her, and then that was it. So definitely felt a little bit more of a disconnect. And fun fact, if you feel a disconnect or if you feel fear when you're on the back of a horse, they can also sense that. Animals are very intuitive, so they can sense that. But anyways, I did enjoy my lessons there that summer. This would have been summer before senior year of high school. So this would have been 2021. So I was riding then. I think at that point though, I knew that I didn't want to like work with horses as my career, but I still wanted to get better at riding. Cause I was like, maybe I'll own horses someday. Like, who knows? But I did enjoy my time there. It was just definitely a lot more, I feel like it was a lot more intense of an atmosphere. Like it just didn't feel quite as comfortable, because it was a bigger operation. I guess that had a lot to do with it. Anyway, I wanted to talk now about the panic attack and kind of how that came about. And if you've never experienced a panic attack for yourself, it is really scary. And I had never, up until this point, I had never dealt with anxiety. I had never dealt with depression. I had never dealt with a panic attack of any sort. That just wasn't something that I had ever experienced. So it was definitely kind of out of the blue for me. Basically what happened is I showed up for a riding lesson as usual. This time I did drive myself. Sometimes my mom would come with me, but for whatever reason, I don't know, she wasn't available, but I drove myself there, and I am very, very glad that I did. But anyways, for some reason, I don't remember if it started like before I got there or if it started like once I got on the horse. I really don't remember, but I just felt so off for some reason. And again, like I said, at this point, I had never experienced anxiety or anything like that before. So like, I don't know what this was. I just felt really off. And like my day had been fine before that. Like everything had been fine. There was nothing that I could really pinpoint as to why I was feeling that way. But remember how I said that horses can sense that? I think my horse definitely did. But I, for some reason, was just like so apprehensive about getting on and riding. But anyways, I got on, I started riding. And it really felt like my horse Sutton was being really weird that day. Like something I feel like I could also sense in her that like something was off. Like she wasn't acting the way she usually did, and I felt like she was more unpredictable, and like we would be trotting around the arena and like it like stuff would just happen to where she was like kind of acting up, and like I was doing the same things that I always do as far as like, you know, like giving a loose enough rein, like my heels were down, my hands were down, like my posture was good, all the things. Like I wasn't riding differently, so to speak. And like my instructor said that, and she was trying to look at like, does the horse's gait look weird? Like, is she walking weird? Maybe the horse was in pain for some reason. Maybe like, you know, she was in discomfort. Like we were trying to figure it out, but I was like, this just feels like really off, really uncomfortable. Like I don't know what's happening, but I just could not get into like the groove and just like trot around the arena and do all the things that I would usually do. Just it wasn't working. So eventually my instructor called in the owner. Remember I said she's the owner was like the kind of intimidating, tough cookie, like old trail hardened horse lady, right? Strong personality, all that. She was nice, but anyway, so called her in and had her watch. And of course I'm like more nervous because she's watching, but anyways, so it's like, okay, trot her around the arena again. So I did, or I tried to. I don't remember exactly what happened because it has been a few years at this point, but I just know that it wasn't working out. Like it was not working, and I felt more and more unsafe on top of this horse, and it was like, and I was honestly like on the verge of tears. But anyways, because my instructor was like, something is definitely off with the horse. Something is definitely like she is acting very different as well. But the owner, she was like, no, she looks fine. Like, you know, everything looks fine. Like eventually she did discover or say something about that she was in heat during that time, which is basically like the horse version of a girl's period. So but I mean you can still ride them during that time, and like you can still, it only affects them like in certain ways. It's not like, anyway, so that shouldn't have necessarily been like the only reason why everything was the way it was. So yeah, the owner was basically just like, no, like everything looks fine. Like you need to make sure you keep your heels down, keep your hands low, like do this, do that. And my instructor was like, she does though. Like my instructor, I love her actually. She was coming to my defense, and she was like, she knows those things. I never have to remind her of those things because she does them. Like she knows, and she has been like. And so then the owner was asking me like, have you, is everything okay at home? Like, did something happen before you came here? Like, have you been having a bad day? Like, are you struggling with something? All these things. And I was like, no, like literally nothing. I have no idea. Like I just showed up for my lesson, and then just something felt really, really off. And like I such a disconnect, and like was getting more and more apprehensive, and like nothing happened. Like everything's fine at home. I was having a good day. And at this point, like I like being confronted like that too, like I was on the verge of tears, like trying to talk and like, defend myself, because it felt like I was being so invalidated in that moment of like, no, it's like nothing's wrong. It's your fault. Like just get on the horse and ride, like, and do it correctly because nothing's wrong. And so eventually the owner left again, and my riding instructor was like, if you don't feel safe getting back on and riding today, we can end the lesson here. Like, I don't want you to get back on just because of like anything that she said. Like truly it would be safer for you to not ride right now if you were like not in the headspace for it, because if you get back on, when you're like this, then things are just going to keep happening, and like it's going to not be safe because the horse is going to sense it too, and it's just not going to be good. So like we can end the lesson here. It's fine. That might be the better option. So at this point I was like, yeah, okay, like I am done for the day. I'm so sorry. Like I can't I don't feel comfortable getting back on. And so that was the end of that lesson. And I was still so upset about the whole thing though. I was so like shaken up because again, like I couldn't even pinpoint like where any of this was coming from. Like I just felt so off. And so I get back out to the car and then like I start sobbing. And I'm sitting there in the driver's seat. Luckily, again, this is why I said I was glad that I came by myself that day, sobbing in the driver's seat. Now, keep in mind that like I said, I had never experienced a panic attack before, so I didn't really know at first what was happening. Um, but like it was more than just sobbing. I was also shaking. I was also hyperventilating. And then I started feeling like tingly from head to toe. It was the weirdest thing. And obviously that made me even more concerned because I'm like, what is happening to my body? Like I was having a hard time breathing. I was crying so hard. I was shaking. I felt lightheaded. I felt like a little nauseous. And then all of a sudden, like my face got like so tingly and numb and I could not move my mouth properly. Like I could not. I even like I pulled down the mirror to check because I'm like, does it actually look this way too, or is it just how it's feeling? And I would try and move my mouth in certain ways like in the mirror and I couldn't. Like my face muscles and everything were so numb and like tingly and I was freaking out at this point because I'm like, what is happening? Like why can't I move my face? Like why? And then eventually I was like, this must be a panic attack. Like this must be what it like this must be an example of it or what it's like. Like I truly it was so scary and it lasted for quite a long time. Like it took me quite a while to like calm down because I'm like it's not safe for me to drive and I also don't want to get home and be like this either. And I was just trying to like get myself under control but like my muscles were just completely numb still and everything. And so eventually I was able to get myself calmed down enough to like drive at least, but and I started getting a little bit of feeling back into my face. But that like I was still really shaken up like driving home and everything. I still felt a little bit tingly. I still was probably like crying on the drive home. Like I don't again, it's been a while, so I don't remember all the details, but I do remember that was actually the last time. That was the last riding lesson I have ever taken. 2021. And remember the part where I said that when you get thrown off a horse or have some bad experience with horses, you're supposed to get back on or get back to horses as quickly as possible because the longer you let it fester, the more fear and apprehension is going to build and the harder it is going to be for you to get on a horse again. Yeah, so I definitely wasn't able to take that advice that time and it wasn't totally intentional. What actually happened was after that week, soccer season was starting up and I thought that I was going to be able to have time still to do the occasional lesson. But first of all, horseback riding is exhausting if you're like, you're working certain leg muscles and if you're like riding for however long, like it's tiring. And so to then go from that to like a double session practice in the morning and then a practice in the evening and then you're like, it wasn't doable for me. So that ended up being my last lesson, which means that I left it off on a panic attack note. Like the last time that I rode, I experienced a panic attack and I like it was a really bad experience. And so that is not ideal. It's not ideal. And then that was the last time I ever took lessons. After that, it was one of those situations where like I mentioned in the last episode, I had to decide something to cut out because I had so many things going on and I was so busy with and I had to pick something to kind of eliminate. And it was that because at that point I no longer wanted to work with horses in my career. I still love horses. But I think I fear them more than I used to because when I was riding at the first place I rode at, like I got super comfortable. and I was in a really good place with horses, and I think some of that fear has come back a little bit ever since that incident. I think I want to say the next time I rode was like maybe a year later, like the following summer. I think my family took a trip down to like Tennessee area, and we went on a trail ride. And I think I was fine then, like getting on the horse and stuff, because it was like, okay, it's a trail ride horse that like does this every single day. Like it's, it's just used to plodding along on a trail. Like we're not doing anything crazy. So I think I was fine. And then since then, I went on one other trail ride at the farm that my cousins still ride at out in New York. And that was like we did a whole family trail ride. And I was a little bit apprehensive getting on. Definitely. It didn't help that on that trail ride, a couple of the horses stirred up like a hornet's nest or something in the ground as they were walking through it. And so then the couple of horses behind them freaked out, and like the one that my aunt was on went like charging through the woods and kind of like hit her leg against a tree and stuff, and like before it was able to get under control. So it was kind of scary, and it was like, oh, it was like in the back of my mind, like all I could think of was how unpredictable these animals are when you get on them. And again, like I was riding a horse that I was not connected with, so it was like kind of in the back of my mind. And then I recently, a couple weekends ago, I was back at that farm when I was in New York, and just did a little bit of riding around the arena with a couple others. And I was put on the same horse that I rode for that trail ride, which she was also a Morgan horse. Her name is Izzy, and she is used to direct rein, which is like English style, and that's how I'm used to holding the reins. So that was great for me. And so I was very much like before riding, even on the drive over to the farm, I could tell that I was getting kind of anxious, and I was like, I had a lot of thoughts going through the back of my mind. And it was just about how horses are unpredictable, and how like a little bit of that fear and that feeling of just like what had happened the last time that I had taken a lesson and been riding a horse in the arena, like started to come back to me. Because I haven't really like worked through that or like ridden a bunch since. And so one of my last experiences was that. So anyway, before I got on to ride, this past like couple weekends ago, I was trying to like bond with the horse as much as possible. I was like petting her and talking to her and like just being close with her and letting her like smell, like get my scent and everything, and just like do all the things, because I'm like, I need to be as connected with this horse as possible. And then I got on, and like we weren't doing anything crazy. We really were just like walking around the arena, like around a couple obstacles, doing some things, and I felt fine. Like I felt comfortable. And also we took their tack off afterwards, and we're giving them sponge baths and stuff. So it was more like horse bonding time, which I realized how much I had missed, like the actual just bonding with the horse time, like not just riding, but actually bonding with the horse, because that's so important. And like, it's such a big part of it. And that's why like going somewhere and just like hopping on some random horse, like I'm really apprehensive about that now, because of the fact that I wasn't really that connected with the horse I rode at that second stable, and everything that happened because of it. And so it's honestly, it's never something that I've considered like I should talk about that in therapy, but like I'm sure that I could benefit from that. But the thing is, like, I don't really expect to be riding horses very much. Like pretty much the only chance I get to is like if I do at the farm that my cousins ride at, like when I visit out in New York. And so, and I love horses, but like I don't seek them out right now because I don't really have the time, and it also costs money usually, and it's like, I don't know. So it's not really something that I've been like, I really need to work on this and heal this trauma, because I don't ride that often, so it's not like something that affects me all the time. And I mean, it's like I just need to get over it, I guess. Not that, okay, that's like That's not what I'm trying to say as far as like if you're struggling with like trauma of something, oh, just get over it. Like obviously that's not how it works, but in this case, that's just something that I need to like work through with myself. And um just like I do have some horsemanship skills. It's not like if I get on a horse like I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I do have some of that, and it would come back to me like if I needed it to. It's just obviously there's still some apprehension there. So that's why I say that horses were my first love and my first panic attack. And since then, I've only had, I think I've only had one like full panic attack to the point where like I was like, again, lightheaded and like brain fog and face and like body completely numb and like couldn't breathe and all that stuff. Like I've experienced anxiety since then. That's a whole different episode, whole different topic. But as far as panic attack, I've only experienced one since then, and it was in college. It was right in my dorm room, late at night, and was a terrifying experience. So if you have experienced panic attacks, my heart goes out to you, and we're working through it together. And I know that it's really easy for people that haven't experienced that to judge it and be like, don't be so dramatic. You're overreacting. Just breathe. Like you'll be fine. But that's not how it works. And so I would say that if you don't understand, because you've never experienced it and never seen anyone experience it, then just be really careful to not judge it like that, because that can actually be really hurtful to people that are experiencing it. And it is not helpful as far as them being able to move forward and grow past that. So I would caution you against that. But anyways, I don't really have anything else to say. I feel like this episode is getting long enough. That's kind of my horse journey. Still love horses, still would, take an opportunity to ride here and there. I do wish, one regret that I do have is that I would have gotten to a more experienced level before I stopped riding, because really the most experience that I got to was like posting at a trot. I wish that I would have practiced a sitting trot, which is Western. I wish that I would have gotten up to a canter. I wish that I would have been more comfortable putting on and taking off the tack by myself. Although I will say, I definitely did that when I was riding. I just like a lot of it kind of has left my memory now. So I'm like, what do? I don't remember this stuff. So that's the unfortunate truth about that. But yeah, that's my only regret, because like I love to take the chance to ride here or there now, but I'm like, I wish that I was a more experienced rider when I do, but I know I'm not gonna probably ever get to take the time and spend the money to take lessons again. So we'll see. I did get to visit Pebbles, the horse that I started riding. I did get to visit her a few weeks ago at the farm. And that was really nice. And what's crazy is actually it had been 3 years since I even last visited that farm. Because there was this other foal that was born 3 years ago that now is this big, beautiful 3-year-old horse that's so friendly and so cute. Her name is Khaleesi. But it was like, wait, it's been 3 years since I last visited. And last time I visited, it had been a few years since I had even ridden. So it's actually been forever, it feels like, since I rode at that first stable. Like it would have been early high school. So, and now I'm about to graduate college, which is absolutely insane to me. Absolutely insane. But that's enough talking for today. I've talked your ear off, probably. More episodes to come. So stay tuned. If you're on Spotify, make sure you follow the Jack of All Trades podcast. Feel free to leave a comment as well. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you've subscribed so that you don't miss that, or my music releases, because I do post those on YouTube as well. And I will see you guys. I always say see you guys. I'm not going to see you guys, but I will talk to you guys in my next episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope everyone has a great day.